Let's go ahead and talk about the monk way of the astral self. This is an unusual monk in the fact that it very much deals with um, the astral version of who you are. And that doesn't necessarily represent as how you look physically. It could be a lot of things, but this involves summoning actual extra limbs to help you fight in combat, and visages, like a mask over your face, or just who you are inside. And that's a really fun theme to explore for this particular monk. Obviously, I could see a lot of Githyanki or Githzerai being of this particular monk subclass. Can you kind of break this down for us?
Yeah, so the way these two subclasses pair really well is we're talking about two different characters who can summon semi-transparent versions of either a knife or arms and use them as weapons and for their abilities. And we actually, you mentioned something really interesting, that idea of with this monk being able to flavor how your astral projections are shown. With the soul knife, you can kind of do a little bit of flavoring with that knife too, and especially with, as we talked about, the way that some of those abilities manifest, because they are literally manifestations of your mind, and in this your astral self, the flavoring and the descriptions of them are really kind of up to you and the way you want to describe your character. And yeah, you get giant arms, and so you should put them on a tiny kobold. There, that's my elevator pitch for you. Get tiny arms on a giant arms on a tiny
Giant
kobold.
arms and a tiny kobold.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, also we're running, if you are in chat, we're running the giveaway for Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It might be done already. I just got pinged about it. So yeah, congratulations to whoever wins Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Go make yourself a soul knife or make yourself some astral arms. So
So,
yeah, go
as
for it.
described for the monk way of the astral self, this is a monk who follows the way of the astral self. They believe their body is an illusion. They see their key as the representation of their actual true form and astral self. The astral self has the capacity to force order and disorder, with some monastery training students to use their power to protect the weak, and or others instructing aspirants on how to manifest their true selves. Uh, this is very interesting. I very much like this idea that the body is an illusion. I was just talking the other day about rune knights and how stone giants themselves don't believe anything outside their cave is real. Anything that is outside of their cave systems is considered to be a dream. So I like this idea that this monk potentially could be right. Is like what's scary, right? Like you can play a character with this concept that if their body is an illusion, maybe everyone else's as well. Um, there's some interesting role play just with this kind of story hook that we see in here. We start with the third. At third level, we get the Way of the Astral Self feature, Arms of the Astral Self. Tell us about how this is very effective.
Well, first I have to point out I love this art. We've talked about the art
It's
in
so good.
Tasha's is amazing. Just yeah, it's just gorgeous art. Really something different that we haven't seen, and yet so classic D&D. I love it so much. So what you see is what you get. Your master of your key allows you to summon a portion of your astral self. As a bonus action, you spend 1 key point to summon the arms of your astral self. When you do so, each creature of your choice that you can see within 10 feet of you must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take force damage equal to some rolls of your martial arts die. That's new, actually, from the UA version of this. Sorry, when you summoned the arms, you just summoned them, and now not only do you summon them, but you get to do some interesting damage. Although it's each creature, yeah, it's each creature of your choice. For 10 minutes, these spectral arms hover near your shoulders or surround your arms, your choice. You determine what the arm's appearance is, and they vanish early if you are incapacitated or die. While the spectral arms are present, you get a bunch of stuff. You can start using your wisdom in place of your strength for a whole bunch of things. You can use the spectral arms to make unarmed strikes, which as a monk is super important. When you make an unarmed strike with your arms on your turn, your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal, which is the best. And the unarmed strikes you make with the arms can use your wisdom modifier in place of your strength or dexterity modifier for the attacks and damage rolls. And their damage type is force damage, which once again,
Whew.
we're talking about a type of damage that not a lot of creatures can resist, that at low levels, when you might not have access to a magic weapon, or you haven't reached the point as a monk in where you're doing magical damage with your fists yet, like that's really good.
It's really good all around. I also like this note that they made that like you don't necessarily have to have extra arms. These can be an extension of your arms, and it brings to mind a movie that came out some time ago called Chronicles of Riddick, where this particular character, the villain, had gone to the Underverse and had come back changed. But when they fought, you would kind of see their astral self moving to fight at the same time, and I think this is a bit evocative of that. So I could see you flavoring it both ways. Um, I think I would tend not to have too many arms for some reason. But yeah, I think there's some very interesting ways to flavor this particular character, like right out of the gate.
And yeah, and I also kind of like the way that it's written. You could reflavor as you go. So maybe in one fight you do
Oh,
have the second set of arms, and in another fight, for whatever reason, they're just extensions. It's just maybe it's how your character is feeling. Maybe it's
yeah.
because of the fight that's going on. Maybe you're trying to do something else, and for that reason, you want to look like you have multiple arms. Because they last for 10 minutes. This is another thing. There's another moment in where a power that you're getting as a character that is probably mostly going to be used in combat, you can have some opportunities to use it out of combat. They talked about how you can use your wisdom modifier in place of your strength modifier when making strength checks and saving throws. So I picture you being able to use these arms out of combat or before combat, and doing some different stuff with them. And
I mean, washing the dishes alone.
yeah, having an extra pair of arms to be able to hold on to the dishes would be really nice.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love all the different ways that you can create the story behind the set of arms that you're getting, and also that you get the reach, because I played a kobold monk who is a way of the astral self, and it's super fun to have that extra 5 feet to be this tiny little creature, and then just poof,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that's
They just
super
punch.
far.
They're
Yeah.
they're they're bigger on the inside. So at sixth
What's
level, we
next?
get the Visage of the Astral Self. You summon a visage of your astral self as a bonus action, or as part of a bonus action you take to activate your arms of astral self as well. So that's great. You don't have to. You're not, having to be like, okay, now I turn on my mask. Now I turn on my arms. Like you can do this all at once.
I need 3 rounds before I'm really ready to go.
I'm almost powered up, everybody. So you can spend 1 key point to summon this visage for 10 minutes. If it can it vanishes early if you are incapacitated or die. The spectral visage covers your face like a helmet or a mask. You determine its appearance. While the spectral visage is present, you gain the following benefits. Astral Sorry, I'm having a lot of coughing today. Astral Sight, you can see normally in darkness, both magical and non magical, to a distance of 120 feet. This is really good, especially if you got some Morlocks that like to use Devil's Sight and cast darkness everywhere they go. So that makes now you can be buddies in the darkness. Yeah, you can
As
have the
buddies.
yeah, wisdom of the spirit. You have advantage on wisdom insight and charisma intimidation checks as well. Word of the spirit, when you speak, you can direct your words to a creature of your choice that you can see within 60 feet, making it the only creature that can hear you. Alternately, you can amplify your voice so that all creatures within 600 feet can hear you.
600 feet is so large.
You get all those benefits, by the way, all at once. So, pretty great. This is where I could see you using this to make a spooky, like often I think of it something like very like weirdly mechanical or ethereal, but like I could see because of the increase to your intimidation checks. What if you do have this spectral ghost-like form that
Mm.
you shift into? And having that intimidation advantage on your charisma checks, plus everyone being able to hear you within like 600 feet, does that mean you can intimidate everyone within that radius? I mean, it
I'd
gets
say so.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, if I just heard a booming voice out of nowhere and didn't know where it was coming from, I'd be a little intimidated, even without the intimidation roll from
Yeah.
a creature I couldn't see 600 feet away.
I don't need to really roll for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had an interesting question come into chat that I want to address. Lord Garthon wants to know, does a Bugbear Astral Monk have a 15-foot reach? Well, Bugbear has long limbed. When you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal, which gives them basically 10-foot reach. And yeah, the interesting thing about the arms of the Astral Self is your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal. So yes, Bugbear would have a 15-foot reach.
That's horrifying.
That's amazing.
I don't like that.
I love it. I want to make one.
It's always so spidery, the Bugbear, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just like a wolf spider now.
They are, I mean, it is limited to attacks. You only
Right.
get that when you're doing attacks, but still that is got to be, I mean, talk about intimidation. If you're 15 feet away from a creature, a medium-sized creature, you don't expect suddenly to be able to have a hand to the face. Like that's not something anyone's expecting. So I could now see you you're activating everything, you're using this intimidation check, and then you're hitting something 15 feet away.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So walk me through the body of the Astral Self. You get this at the 11th level.
Yeah, so we're going to continue to pile on all kinds of fun stuff. When you have both your astral arms and Visage summoned, you can cause the body of your Astral Self to appear. So we've got arms, and then we got a face, and now we got a body. And this is just something that happens that you can add on. The spectral body covers your physical form like a suit of armor, connecting with the arms and the visage. You determine its appearance. While the spectral body is present, you gain a bunch of effects. You can take acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, or thunder damage. You can use your reaction to deflect it. When you do so, the damage you take is reduced by 1d10 plus your wisdom modifier with a minimum of 1. So it's your reaction. So you can only do it once a turn, but there's no minimum number of times that you can do this. You can just do it every round. You're just shrugging off some damage. Empowered arms, once on each of your turns, when you hit a target with the arms of the Astral Self, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to your martial arts dice, which is really nice when, once again, you're in that moment where you're like, I just need to do a little bit more damage and take this thing out or destroy this thing. There you go. You have a wellspring of dice that you can grab from and throw at a problem.
It's great, and you're almost hit your final form at this point. But these are all great things to have, and like you pointed out, like deflect energy. It may not be a ton of damage mitigation at first look, but the fact that you can keep on doing this over and over again is super impressive. There is no limit, so that could really make a huge difference in a fight. So that brings us to the 17th level feature for this monk, and these are spread out a bit because monks get a lot like rogues do. The awakened Astral Self. At 17th level, your connection to the Astral Self is complete, allowing you to unleash its full potential. As a bonus action, you can spend 5 key points to summon the arms, visage, and body of your Astral Self and awaken for 10 minutes. This awakening ends early if you die or you're knocked out. So, while your Astral Self has been awakened, you gain the following benefits. Armor of the Spirit, you gain +2 to your armor class. And Astral Barrage. Whenever you use an extra attack feature to attack twice, you can instead attack 3 times if all of the attacks are made with your astral arms.
Just lean into those arms. Just pummel everything.
Pummel.
It's a fun word to say, pummel.
It is.
Yeah, you were just talking about your final form.
This is your final form. I adore that it's so it just builds and builds and builds upon itself
Yeah.
throughout the entire subclass. Uh, I like that you feel like you're gaining you really are, or do feel like you've hit your complete self by the time you've gone to the end of this. Um, it's one of the monks you can flavor so much on your own, um, because of that astral self concept. And the idea of being able to shift this around a lot makes me very happy. I think this is a very strong keystone ability. I mean, capstone ability as well.
Oh yeah. And it monks are not necessarily the kind of characters out of combat that, like rogues, they don't necessarily have a lot of other abilities to help them outside of combat. So some of the stuff that we've talked about with being able to summon this visage and do the intimidation checks and do other things is really nice. And then in combat it leans into the fact that monks are not necessarily giant damage dealers. They have a bunch of different things at their disposal. They are doing multiple attacks. They're able to reach further and do other things, And so a monk isn't necessarily going to out damage a fighter or a rogue or a barbarian, but they're going to attack 3 billion times, and they're going to inflict all kinds of statuses, and they're going to mitigate all kinds of damage, and then they're going to decide that they want to take dodge action and just dance around for a little while, and you can't hit them. So it's their utility is amazing. And then to then have on top of it this extra uh it's not a physical manifestation, but a visual and an auditory manifestation of your powers that are outside of you just hitting something really hard. Like that's super fun. And yeah, I once again I had a lot of fun playing my arms of the astral self. They are um it, they the reach itself is worth it, but then also just having that extra flavor is really nice.
I completely agree. I think it's a really fantastic monk subclass. I am pretty in love with the Way of Mercy monk, however, in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. That is both of these are in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. That's available on D&D Beyond right now. You can also gift it. We have gifting on D&D Beyond, which is super cool. But yeah, there's a lot of great subclasses in there. This is one of my favorite D&D books to ever come out. I love subclasses, but there's lots of other really very cool features in it as well. Do we have any more questions from chat?
We have one last question, which in these last few minutes, I think is actually the perfect question. Celestial Witching wants to know, so would you combine the soul knife and the arms of the astral self? Would you multi-class and do both? Which offers some interesting ideas, doesn't it?
It does.
You're not
There's a little bit of crossover between monk and rogue, because they get some of the similar abilities. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's scary. I don't like it. I don't want to fight one.
the
If it's like tossing knives and all that.
Yeah, well, what it basically gives you is like a suite of options, because it's not necessarily that, like, you can't take your astral arms and throw the knife. So you kind of have to make these decisions. Am I using the arms? Am I using my psychic abilities? But to have that moment, especially in combat, and where, oh, I really need to be ranged for this. Well, all right, I'll fall back on my knife. Or I really need to be close up and I'm gonna pummel something. Like being able to kind of choose between the two. You can't use the sneak attack with your arms because your arms are not considered a finesse weapon. Um, but I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of crossover between the two. I like the idea of being a monk who has the psychic connection up from the soul knife. Um, yeah, and then you activate your visage and you're talking to everything within 600 feet and doing, some kind of performance, but then psychically you're telling your friends, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, wait, go over there, take care of that thing. Like you're almost a weird bard at that point. I can see these two subclasses. I don't think it's an optimal build, but it would be
No, it's
interesting.
not.
It would be
No.
super interesting. The fact that also like Astral Sight gives you that non-magical and magical darkness up to 120 feet, that's really useful for a rogue. If you're sneaking around and you're playing a class that, or you're playing an origin that does not have dark vision, and you're sneaking somewhere that it's pitch black, and then you can activate your dark vision and still be sneaking like a rogue,
Yeah.
that'd be really neat.
Yeah.
All right, wait. Now I might have turned around to this multi-class.
I have not.
I might be combining my two characters into some amazingly horrific multi-class monster, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Who is a bugbear?
And you played both of these, so you've had a lot of fun with both of those subclasses.
Absolutely.
Well.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I think the Way of the Astral Arms is a little closer to the UA than the Soul Knife, but I like both of the Tasha's versions equally as well. I think both of them were a ton of fun to play as, and I highly recommend both of them because they're ridiculous fun.
Awesome. Lauren Urban, our community manager over at D&D Beyond and also D&D expert. I'm Todd Kenreck, your host for Build's Character. I'm the creative manager over there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. I believe the link to the marketplace is in our chat right now. I definitely recommend checking out that book. It is a lot of fun. Have a great day. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, because next week is a holiday in the United States. There will not be either a dev update or a build character next Thursday, so it'll be 2 weeks before you see us again. But hey, go have a nice holiday and stay safe, everybody. Sorry to interrupt the end of your show.
No,
I wanted to
it's
make
fine.
sure that people knew that, like,
how dare you?
Yeah, I'm just taking over now. We're gonna miss you, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available now on D&D Beyond. Purchase before January 5th to unlock the Cauldron dice set, as well as character sheet backdrops, themes and frames.